Remember, on the 26th of January 2024, when Jurgen Klopp announced he was leaving Liverpool, do you remember that feeling of despair, that worry that this might be the end of an era? And then do you remember the 20th of May 2024, when Liverpool announced their new manager, and it was Arne Slot, and we all sort of went, who? Not just us, all the pundits, all the experts on TV, they were all like, who's this? They were using words like flying under the radar. What they really meant is they didn't have a clue who he was. The word that kept coming to the fore on the TV interviews were that everyone was underwhelmed. And you know, Liverpool fans will always give the benefit of the doubt. If the club have brought them in, they brought them in for good reason, so we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But, and I include myself in this, and every Liverpool fan I spoke to was concerned, because we didn't know who he was. The general consensus, and I would say again, this was everybody I spoke to, was that it's now going to be a period of adjustment, of consolidation, and if we get a top 4 finish and maybe win a cup, that'll be a good season in a new manager's first season. That'd be considered successful. The UK media, on the other hand, dismissed them completely. Absolutely nobody predicted Liverpool as champions, but a lot of them didn't even predict Liverpool would make top 4. In fact, some of them put Man United in our place in the top 4. This was before the ball was kicked. This was before he'd even got his feet under the table. They just wrote him off. They actually didn't say that replacing Klopp was going to be difficult. They said it was impossible. An impossible act to follow. So imagine the pressure that Arne Slot must have been under. He'd never been out to Holland in terms of as a player or as a manager. And he's coming to one of the biggest football clubs in the world and the biggest football club in England. Can you imagine the private pressure he was under? But it didn't faze him one bit. And when you go and backtrack through his history, which I'm going to get to, it helps understand why. Slot took over Liverpool, and within a matter of a few games, he put a stamp on it, and he broke a whole bunch of records, which I'm going to get to a little bit later, in his first few months at Liverpool. But we also lost our home to Forest. And once again, all the usual suspects in the UK media jumped all over that. There you go. Told you. Not up to it. They lost their home to Forest. Forest are probably going to get relegated. That was their angle. Liverpool had a fantastic start to the season. Again, I'll get into the records in just a bit that he broke. But that bit was because we'd had an easy start. The key to them was that we'd lost to Forest. They considered the excellent start that Liverpool had a bit of a fluke. New manager bounce, and it was all going to come tumbling down. But it wasn't a fluke. And when you look at Slot pre-Liverpool, his past achievements prove it wasn't. So I'm going to get into them now. So let's go back to before his time at Liverpool. Slot claimed that as a player, he was never able to reach the heights, which he never did. He did okay in sort of mid-table, lower-table teams. But he said he was never able to reach the heights that he wanted to get to because he wasn't fast enough. He just didn't have the speed. But in his own words, he said, even as a player, the one thing I did have was speed of mind. And so even as a player, he was thinking to himself, I might not make it as a top player because of my lack of speed of foot, but I might make it as a manager because I think I've got speed of mind. And that's what got him in to becoming a manager in the first place. So in October 2016, he became interim coach of second division Dutch club Cambuur. And he made such an immediate impact as interim coach that in January 2017, just a couple of months later, they gave him the job permanently till the end of the season because of, quote, exceptional results. But just as importantly, they talked about the positive impact he'd had on the club and on the players in the dressing room. Canberra also, under Slot, reached their first and only ever Dutch Cup semi-final in their history, because they're a second division club, and they still are a second division club right now, but they reached the semi-final of the Dutch Cup. On the way to that, under Slot, they knocked out Ajax, and then they only got knocked out in the semi-final on penalties to AK Alkmaar. He achieved all this as interim coach in a team in the second division with a ground capacity of 10,500 fans. So in 2017, Slot left Canberra and was taken on by AK Alkmaar, the team that had just knocked them out on penalties, as an assistant. And according to them, their reasons for hiring him were because he was, quote, experienced, studious, innovative and ambitious. In December 2018, they promoted him to head coach of the club. In that first season, he became the first manager ever in Bundesliga history to get 19 points in his first 8 Eredivisie games. In 2019-2020, his first full season, that season ended up being cancelled because of COVID, and they never finished it. They didn't continue like England did after the pandemic and finish it off with empty stadiums. They cancelled it. Guess where AK Alkmaar were when they cancelled the season after 25 games? Joint top on points with Ajax in Slot's first season at Alkmaar. When they cancelled that season, Slot's win percentage in the league was 72%. They could well have gone on to win the title in Holland, but they were denied it by the pandemic. Now in December 2020, Alkmaar sacked him. But you know why? Because he'd apparently been courting or flirting or the other way round with Feyenoord, and some type of agreement had been made, so they boosted him out. And 10 days later, he was Feyenoord coach. He ended his time at AZ Alkmaar with average points per game of 2.11, the highest ever in the club's history. So it was on the 15th of December 2020 that Feyenoord announced that he was going to be their coach for the start of the next season, the 2021-22 season. In his first season at Feyenoord, they reached the round of 16 in the European competition for the first time in 20 years. They went on to the final, where they lost to Roma 1-0. He also came third in the Eredivisie that season, in his first season, and was announced as Manager of the Year in Holland in his very first season. In his second season, 22-23, he became the first Feyenoord manager in history to win 15 European games. In their history. And they're an incredibly successful club in Holland. And on the 14th of May 2023, Slot's Feyenoord won 4-0 to secure the Eredivisie title. In his second season, he won the league. Again, he was crowned manager of the season, and only the 4th time in Dutch history was the same man given manager of the season in 2 consecutive seasons. So right after that, and here's where history could have changed, but thankfully did not. Spurs went in for him. He just won the Dutch league. Spurs sat down and talked to him. Do you know what they told him? You're one of the front runners for our managerial spot. And Slot wasn't interested in that. He didn't want to be one of the front runners. He had ambition. He believed in himself. Being one of the front runners for Spurs did not match his ambitions, and he turned them down. And he carried on with Feyenoord. The biggest mistake Spurs could have possibly made with Arne Slot is telling them that you are one of the front runners. So the next season, Feyenoord only finished second in the league, but, and this is important, their second place finish ended up with 26 wins in 34 games and only 2 defeats. They had a win percentage in that season of 76.5%. They scored 92 goals in that season and conceded only 27 for a goal difference of plus 65. So yet they only finished second, but their season was absolutely brilliant, and it took an even more brilliant season to beat them. Disappointment of second place in the league, but he did win the Dutch Cup. So he won the league in his first season and he won the cup in his second season and finished second. So in April 2024, Liverpool, under the radar, went to Holland and sat down with Arne Slot, and guess what he told him? You were our first choice to take over Liverpool. And that's what he wanted to hear. A man who had great faith in his own ability and huge ambition was being told he was number one for the biggest club in England and one of the biggest clubs in the world. He wasn't told he was one of the potentials for the likes of Spurs. This matched his ambition. So now he's at Liverpool. We're all bracing ourselves. We have no idea what's going to come. In his first game away at Ipswich, early kick-off against the promoted team, he became the first Liverpool manager since Gerard Houllier to win his first Liverpool game. On the 27th of November, Real Madrid came to town and we beat them 2-0, and it was the first time we had beaten Real Madrid in numerous games in 15 years. But in his third game in the league, remember that easy start we had? We were away at Old Trafford, and he became the first manager since George Kay in 1936 to win his first game as Liverpool manager at Old Trafford. 89 years. He then became the first Premier League manager ever to win his first 6 league games away from home. He became the quickest Premier League manager ever to reach 15 wins in all competitions. And he became the first Liverpool manager ever to win 11 of the first 12 matches at the start of the season. He was breaking records left, right and centre from day one. And of course, in his first season at Anfield, we made it to the League Cup final, we topped the league phase in the Champions League, and we won the title at a canter without him signing a single player who played any part in that season. Tactical brilliance. On the day we won the league against Spurs 5-1, Liverpool's win rate in the league was 73.5%. Astonishing numbers. Numbers which echoed numbers that he'd had at Feyenoord and at Alkmaar. So he's been doing it, he's been breaking records, and he's been groundbreaking and trailblazing at every club he's been at. So I know it's all hindsight now, but when you look at his achievements, it's not really a surprise that he was this good. And the way Liverpool is set up, with their unbelievable attention to detail, their planning, their statistical analysis, is it any wonder they went after him? Because what they do, they don't just analyse results. Most other clubs analyse results. They go, well, he won this, therefore we should get him. And think of how many times that's failed. But they don't just analyse results. They analyse results. They analyse playing style. They analyse tactical awareness, team structure, player recruitment, player development, and the type of character and personality that they're bringing in. And Slot ticked every box, which is why they went there and said, you're our number one. Forget what the media say. Forget Xabi Alonso. Forget who everyone thinks we should hire. We're going for the best. We're going for elite. And they did it, and we got him. And now, admittedly in hindsight, they couldn't possibly have done any better than they did in getting their man. Arne Slot's 46 years old. He's a title winner. He's a serial winner across 3 teams. And even in the off-season now, he's winning again. Because look what's happening in the transfer market. Look at the window we've just had. It's being talked about as the best window there's ever been. Not just at Liverpool, but potentially for any club in England. So he's achieved all that in season 1. So imagine what he can achieve going forward. Now that he's really bedded in and settled in and being able to analyse everything and bring in the players he wants and take out the players he doesn't want, imagine what can be achieved in seasons 2, 3, 4, 5 and hopefully beyond. One final thing that I thought was really worth mentioning here. I did a video right after we won the league, and it was a thank you video to Slot, thanking him for everything he'd done and the reasons. And I got a ton of comments on that video, but what was really intriguing was about half of the comments were from Feyenoord fans, his previous club, and they were applauding the man. They were ecstatic, they were thrilled for him, they were honoured that this man had been their manager, and they were thrilled that he'd gone to a club like Liverpool. And they're following Liverpool now as well as their own club because they're following Arne Slot. That's the impact he had on his previous club and the fan base. Just like the way the Dortmund fans embraced Liverpool when we got Jurgen Klopp. And you know what song those three clubs have in common? Liverpool, Dortmund, Feyenoord. Oh, and by the way, Cambuur, where it all started for them. Yeah, they all sing one song. They all use the same anthem. You'll never walk alone. Cheers. Talk to you soon. Ta-ra.